We're talking about religion and spirituality, and you can have both. It's just about balance.
Be anywhere, but when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am
a heavy student of Dr. Africa, talking about just being one in herbalism, how everything is connected, just how I'm connected to the bees, the trees, the flowers, the concrete. I mean, if you look at a black woman and her afro and look at a tree, what's the difference?
One of the lies that we tell ourselves is that we are making progress. We tend to equate progress with concessions. We can no longer make that mistake. See, it's no in between. You're either free or you're a slave. There's no such thing as second-class citizenship. But a lot of you running around talking about you Democrats, and the Democrats got you in the biggest trick going. When black people become serious about the revolutionary struggle that they are caught up in, whether they recognize it or not, when they begin to go down and knock off people who are oppressing them, that's when the revolutionary struggle unfolds. Not until.
Peace, family. Welcome to the Power to the Panthers podcast, where we're here to educate, regulate, and demonstrate. Educate the youth, regulate the truth, and demonstrate the proof. And today, family, I have a very special guest in the building with me. I got my sister, my aunt, Sankofa. And today we're going to be talking about some very, topics in our community that heavily gets talked about. But we do need to have more and more conversations around these things to get a real deeper understanding. And family, what I'm talking about is religion and spirituality. We're going to be talking about religion and breaking down spirituality, showing the correlations, and also talking about the differences and things that, what came before what and things of that nature. So family, get ready to be educated on a topic that is very much needed to be discussed in the community, spirituality and religion. My sister, my aunt Sankofa, break it down who you are, what you represent for the people.
So yes, like he said, I am my aunt Sankofa. I am basically my name. So my name is my aunt Africa with a K, Sankofa. Start with my middle name, Africa. Heavily like a heavy student of Dr. Africa, talking about just being one in herbalism. My first name is my aunt, and I got on my IT. Basically bringing balance to everything. And, we're talking about religion and spirituality, and you can have both. It's just about balance. And also our spiritual laws. And then my last name, Sankofa, going back to the past and taking what the ancestors started for us and what they finished for us also, and using it for right now. So that's basically what I do. I'm a doula. I'm an herbalist. I'm a spiritual healer, a counselor, a mentor. I'm heavy with the youth. I'm heavy in the community because honestly, we all we got. If we don't continue to lock arms, then, the community is just going to keep going how it's going, or what we do have will diminish away. So we have to, stay connected and organize more.
Most definitely. And just, everything that we're doing, we're promoting what we want to see, for the future, for the young people coming up, and everything that we do. And we're looking to our ancestors, how like just doing this podcast, looking towards what the ancestors laid out for us. We still have some of the Black Panthers with us, but for some of the Black Panthers that are not with us, they've laid out the blueprint for some of the things that we should follow, especially when it comes from a revolutionary perspective. As we talk about our conversation, centered around spirituality and religion, I just want to kind of kick off this conversation. And I have a two-part question to the first question. And it is, how has religion shaped us as a community? And then how has spirituality shaped us as a community?
So I'll start off by saying that religion, specifically Christianity, because that is the biggest, religion amongst our people. Well, to my knowledge, a lot of people are becoming Muslim as well. But I grew up, in a Christian household. And I feel like Christianity definitely brought us together, the singing and coming together in a place. But it has also like created another classes system. because in all churches, everyone is not welcome. We still have people looking down on you, judging you, whispering, and being sneaky, or trying to get money out of you. That just sounds like another form of white supremacy to me. So and the same can be said for spirituality. A lot of people want to become their higher selves, just to feel like they have one up on someone, putting themselves on a pedestal, when spirituality is about seeing you in someone else, not seeing yourself above someone else. So once again, it's very easy to get lost, following the wrong people and getting lost in these titles and labels, and forgetting about the root, forgetting about why we are doing something. And I just feel like that has happened in both spaces. But religion, there's not enough radicalness. So it has made us lose our way from the ancestors, because we're just focusing only on like this text and this version, instead of looking at the layers that it has and looking at the history and all that. So it shaped us in kind of a funny shape. We're not all messed up, but we're not all together. So I feel like by going deeper into the root, then we can start bringing out the good in these spaces.
Precisely. And, just like when you're talking about, even just with your name, Ma'at, and we're talking about balance, like religion, we when we talk about both of them, we know that spirituality came before religion. And we know that religion takes facets of spirituality and, puts it into their text and what they want to convey to the people. So just having that kind of like perfect balance, because, just coming from your perspective, where you say you grew up in the church, and that was your upbringing, and then now coming into a certain level of consciousness and spirituality, you're able to kind of have that dual understanding of both religion and spirituality. And for the people that might only lean towards one way, you can help illustrate to them how there can be a balance, how you can understand the religion aspects and the spirituality aspects and come together and form what you want to create. What were the impacts of religious indoctrination during slavery?
I feel like, once again, it tore us from our roots. On the plantations, there was always a lot of singing, and they sang, in their native tongue, and, they would be beaten and, the whole nine, just for singing the song or speaking in their native tongue. So forcing them to read, your language and your idea of God, just further remove them from their own culture, just alone. And then kind of not really explaining, what this even is. It's just, here you go. This is the only thing that you can practice. And that's just the end of that. And that kind of reminds me of being a kid in church and not being able to question anything. And, you don't really have a connection to God, because you don't really know anything besides, I'm going to hell if I do this, or I don't want to sin. So it's kind of like the same thing. Now, of course, that's not everyone's experience as a child, but it's too many of our experience. Just not being able to ask questions about anything in Black households sometimes. And it just, it limits us, because when you're a kid, you're a sponge, and, our imaginations can just go all, out. And I feel like that's just the perfect time for us to really be laying down, knowledge and, knowledge of self into our kids, because then that brings confidence and, they're, so forth. So when we're talking about on the plantation, a lack of confidence, even, and like, your connection to God, like, you don't halfway know the language that they're speaking. You can't, speak in your own language. You don't really even know what's going on, except that you being treated wrong. So not even having that, just sense of security and love inside of you with the connection to your higher power. So I feel like it was just a domino effect on like their, knowledge of self, sense of worth, confidence, and, all the above.
Yes. And, you know, just in addition to what you were talking about, when we look at like the movie Birth of a Nation, the one with Nate Parker, and he played the role of Nat Turner, and how Nat Turner was a preacher of the word of God, and then how, you know, that kind of, you know, being in the condition of being enslaved, and then having the Bible, and then him, you know, understanding, you know, what God was telling him because of the conditions that he was facing. So there were times in our history where the Bible did take us to a place of emancipation. What the rebellion that Nat Turner led definitely came from his understanding of where he believed God was trying to put him in the direction for. And even Harriet Tubman would carry a pistol in one hand and a Bible in the other. So we know that there was always a level of spirituality and in correlation of religion to our freedom fighters, to our ancestors, to our history. And I feel like you're saying, going back to the root, going back to the essence is where we need to bring it, because a lot of it is becoming too man-made in the sense that this person says this and that person says that, and you have to follow this, or you know, you might go against common sense or what you actually believe because some sort of thing you read in one of the texts says this or that. So a lot of times we have to kind of let that go when we know what's better, what the better decision is for us to make. So I definitely, you know, agree with you on that.
I also just wanted to add that, you know, a lot of our like great grandmas, they already had that mix and that balance, you know, from don't put your purse on the floor, cleaning the home, wiping the walls down, you know, cooking black eyed peas and collard greens on the first, and you know, all these different rituals and stuff. And then somehow it got lost, and then now we picking it back up. So, you know, that's just something to add, that a lot of people's great, you know, grandmas and, you know, grandmas do these things, but, you know, then in another hand, they say, well, you know, it's evil and that's not of God and all that. So, you know, once again, once we just go to the root of it, I feel like a lot of confusion, you know, will be cleared up.
You know, we're always growing, we're always trying to get better, especially as Black people in particular. And when we're looking at spirituality and religion, I want to ask you this: how do you see our evolution regarding religion and spirituality?
I feel like right now where spirituality is on the uprise. And I just feel like it's because my generation has felt, you know, turned away from the church. And we first started out with the notion, you know, my connection to God has nothing to do with going to church, because that's something that our parents and grandparents will make us feel bad about. But at the end of the day, as long as me and, you know, my higher power, we know what we have going on, me going to church is not, you know, the end all be all. And then from that point on, mixing the awareness of mental health in our, you know, spiritual journey, because in healing, you're being spiritual because you're going back to the notion of everything is connected. So it's like, if you want to heal your mental health and you need therapy, you're going to somehow end up on the spiritual journey anyways. So I feel like that's why a lot of the people of my generation have started a spiritual journey, just because we're trying to heal. We're trying to figure this shit out. Like, we're, you know, we angry. We don't know where we going. We rushing, you know, just finding that peace is, you know, where I feel like we started. And then from then on, we're finding out, we're reading books and we're like, oh, so wait, that's why this is like this. And the things are, you know, the wheels is turning, things are connecting. So I feel like spirituality is going to keep going up, just because healing is on the rise. I feel like those two things are really hand in hand right now. And a lot of people don't even know that they have accepted the challenge for their families, like to heal, to educate, and to just bridge that gap in between generations. So that's what I see for the near future for me, especially, and for, you know, those around me.
Yes, yes. And we're always evolving, and we're always trying to get better. So, even just looking at, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and just all of the nuances that we see now with just the information that is being uncovered through the documentaries, documentaries like Hidden Colors, that came out, around 2010. So, and it's, we're in 2024 now. So we're only 14 years into like having a consistent outlet for us to find and research information based around the way technology has also evolved in that regard, because a lot of of what we're seeing comes at us at a rapid pace now, because we have all of these social media platforms that we're able to get this information, and we have phones that we can access it at the drop of a dime, where people 20, 30 years ago actually had to go and do the research, and find a specific text, go to the library. They couldn't just reach for their phone and get this information. So just evolving the concepts of religion and spirituality, we see the evolution of technology and social media, and that's kind of brought a lot of this information forward, and a lot of people have gotten to the level of consciousness through these different media outlets. So it's definitely a blessing in disguise, for sure.
I just feel like social media has definitely played a part. See, I started my spiritual journey like around COVID. That's when I went vegan. That's when I was healing the childhood traumas. So during that time, we're at home, we're definitely all on our phones, and just the information, the lives, and it just sparked something inside of me. And I feel like that was a lot of people's experience. It's just like, all you have to do, it might be a key word, it might be a sentence or a phrase, and it's like a whole 180 in your brain, and you're like, okay, this is what I need to do. And then you have people whose whole pages are dedicated to the one specific topic that you need help on. So social media has definitely played a huge role, I feel like, in the evolution of spirituality and healing.
What spiritual concepts have shaped your consciousness?
So the first one I want to speak on is meditation. It sounds so cliche, but honestly, being able to just get in a space and really calm your mind without thinking about bills, without thinking about your family or your job or anything, and just really being able to focus on your breath, because our breathing is just something that the body just does, but when you actually sit and you focus on it, you actually put your body in like a whole different state of mind. That has really helped me not say things out of emotion or out of anger. Really sit and process it, to be like, am I tripping? Or be like, nah, I ain't tripping, they trying to play with me. Either way. So yeah, meditation has really helped me in the morning. Sometimes I'll be at work and I'll just go into a state of meditation just out of nowhere, just so I can like bring myself back, so I can make it through the rest of the day. And then before I go to bed, to make sure that I'm not bringing any negative energy into my bed as best as I can, to help me fall asleep better, because a lot of times we can't fall asleep because we have too much on our mind. We need to calm the body down. And then I would say the other huge thing as far as a spiritual concept is the Tree of Life meditation. The book that I read was by Ra Nefer Amen. And I read that book at TSU, the Tennessee State University. And my Professor Sekhmet Ma'at, two of the concepts on the Tree of Life. So it basically just goes from 0 to 10, 0 being the higher power, 10 being the physical body. And it just talks about the different like spiritual Egyptian concepts that are all connected. Ma'at being one, Sekhmet being one, Haru being one, Tahuti, just the different like parts of the body. And that really made me sit and think. Like it really just everything started connecting. All the unanswered questions that I had as a kid, and just late teenage, early adult years, everything just started making sense. And that's a professor who really made me think differently about how I treated my own people specifically, and just giving grace to each other and knowing that everybody probably needs to heal. And these are all different concepts. Everybody is a reflection of you. That concept right there just helps you have grace with other people and with yourself. Nobody is out here perfect. They've been where you've been where they've been in some sort of way. Yeah, and then just how everything is connected, just how I'm connected to the bees, the trees, the flowers, the concrete. I mean, if you look at a Black woman and her afro and look at a tree, what's the difference? Because we can go and talk about how we were once green, like everything that we see. And it really just gives me a state of peace. Like, these worldly things and, the money, they kind of force us to care about it more than we actually really should. So we need to remember the things, just like the little things that are really not little things. I mean, seeing a rainbow outside, the rain coming down, the sun rising every morning, no matter what we do or how we feel, the sun, it's going to come up. The moon, just things like that. And just knowing how you are all connected to that, how a woman is connected with the moon cycles. And, once you start going deep like that, everything else in life is like, that ain't nothing. That's something small to a giant. I'm a tree out here. Like, what can touch me? I'm connected like, I'm rooted like the trees. So that bill that's past due, God got me. I'm going to take it, like, it's going to be all right. So just being able to always remember that I am okay. I'm connected to everything, and that we going to be all right at the end of the day. That has really helped me. And I'm just glad and very grateful that I was able to, learn these things in my 20s, because I have people in my family, my parents even, that are still trying to figure it out. They don't really want to listen to me. But, I know they're proud of me. And, I've accepted this challenge for my family. So, favor ain't fair. If God has favor in your life, know that it's not going to be easy, but it's worth it. So those are the spiritual concepts, that have really kept me, that, got things started, but they really keep me going.
Definitely. And I agree with everything that you're saying. And just, speaking into more about what you were saying about meditation, even when we look at the Islam religion and we look at how, they pray, I think it's about 6 times a day. And just they, no matter where they're at, they pray. They could be, no matter where it is. So just looking at from your perspective, when you were talking about you be at work and sometimes you just want to meditate, that's even just similar to that concept of a person having to pray, a certain amount of times a day. And it doesn't matter. It's not like, oh, you only pray when you're near a mosque or near this or such. But they say it just, you're, because that spirituality is within you, because wherever you're going, that spirit is going to be released in what you're representing in that moment. Yep. So, there's all these correlations. It's just that some people want to, dilute religion and take the negative aspects that have been attributed to it and what we see nowadays. And they want to get rid of all that, because they can't be a spiritual person if they're using religion to hustle people, if they're using religion, against people. Like I seen this pastor talking about that it's not good to give to, poor or homeless people, you won't be rewarded for that. Right. So when you hear that, even though we know that's just, that's what we would look at as like a stereotype, just hustling preacher. It's just that those are the ones that get put on TV. Those are the ones that will go viral. Right. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the pastors that are doing the right thing, doing, honorary work in the community, they'll go viral. I'm not saying that they don't, but a lot of times there's just a highlight on the negative things in our society. And when the people who are supposed to do good are doing negative, a lot of times that gets, superimposed over everything else.
Yep. Yeah, unfortunately, it is too many, social media pastors that just be saying all types of crazy stuff. It's like, what? Like, what scripture did you pull that sermon from? Like, what? But yeah, it's kind of embarrassing, honestly, because like I said, I do feel connected to everybody in some sort of way. And I'm a type of person where I just feel like too much of our business is out on Front Street. We don't keep nothing in house anymore. Everything is a podcast episode. Everything is, a topic, when we need to be meeting up and talking about these things and fixing some things in house. And instead of going, on Front Street with everything, and then we're not even a united front. We're not organized. So that's one thing that I feel like we need to do better at, actually, like, meeting up and talking about things, because once it hits social media, everybody has an opinion. Now we on there arguing. It's a distraction, and everybody should know everything that's going on with our culture and with our community, because then they feel like they have a right to define it for us and to have their mouth on things that has nothing to do with them, that they can't even connect to, they can't even relate to. So, you need to be connecting more, having more, videos and stuff just sent out to each other instead of everything, always being on Front Street. We need to start gatekeeping more for us, though, not gatekeeping from each other, but from the others.
Yeah, and getting on code more. We need to be on that black code, because a lot of people, they be switching and flipping sides and don't know where to be. They want to be on the fence, and they don't understand, how important it is to be on code. Because whatever you want to do in your life, we got to get on code and then get what we need to get, and then people can do what they want to do, after that. But we not there yet. We not at the point where we could just think for self and, do that. We have to come together because of all the stuff we've gone through, throughout, history and everything that we see. And then once we get to the point, then we'll be able to, do the individual things that we want to do for ourselves. But it really takes us to get on one accord and getting on page and getting on code and just understanding the importance of it, So,
and a lot of people think that means that everybody has to, like, be the same religion or think the same or be into the same things. But that's not true. The liberation has always looked like a rainbow when it came to, people's backgrounds and stuff. But we have to remember what we're doing it for. We're doing it for, our legacy, for ourselves, and, everything it's not going to be perfect. We're not going to, everybody's favorite color is not going to be red, but that shouldn't keep us apart. So just focusing more on our similarities and not our differences. And that's one thing I meant to mention earlier, just talking about the difference between religion and spirituality, because I could tell you right now about 4 or 5 rituals and things done in the church that I still do in spirituality. And it's okay, but it's like they kind of want to force themselves to be different. Taking a blood and body ritual, that ain't nothing different than me sitting in front of my altar and talking to my ancestors. The same thing. I mean, there's an altar in the church. What they say, you come and you lay it all on the altar. So it's like we have so many similarities, and they don't understand. Well, some people do understand. They just still, like that classist thing. But a lot of people don't understand that this is just what the ancestors have been doing. This is what spirituality is. It's nothing evil or wrong or disrespectful or anything about it. And I feel like once we start focusing more on the things that we have in common, that's really what's going to, like, actually be able to bridge that gap between generations, between religious people and just spiritual people. Because, I still listen to gospel music. I'll go to church, with my parents or something, just to make them happy, listen to the music. And I'm always coming respectful. I will, have my Bible app, and whatever sermon it is today, I will try to, connect it to my life in some type of way, because I'm here, hearing a word, and I'm here for a reason. I feel like nothing is on accident. So just, them being able to come in our spaces with that same respect, though. That's all I ask.
Yes, that balance is always key to every situation. We just got to
Yeah.
have some balance, both understanding the perspectives, both being able to respectfully, if you want to agree to disagree, and just respectively do that. So,
Yep.
I think that's where it is, my eye, and just following those concepts and those principles as we see it. No different than how they have the 10 commandments, but in my eye it says, I shall not, I shall not. And the commandments say you shouldn't, somebody dictating something versus you affirming that you won't
Mhm.
do these things yourself.
Affirming, that's the word right there. Affirming, remembering, just telling the brain, what it already knew.
Understanding religion and understanding spirituality. From your perspective, what is an ideal blend of both religion and spirituality?
Um, I feel like there's no like perfect answer because everybody's connection to God and relationship with God is different. But what I have some books here that I'm gonna show in a minute that have helped me, have my balance blend. But I just feel like first, all Black people need to learn knowledge of self. They need to learn about the things that went on, the true history about what went on. And I feel like from then on, now we can have a healthy blend of the two. Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know the traumas that were put on your lineage, specifically if you can get that information, but just on our people, period, because we get a lot of choppy history and wrong history, in school. Sometimes our parents don't know, like we said before, we're the generation that has everything at our fingertips. So, just first getting that knowledge of self. First, the first book that I read on my spiritual journey was The Miseducation of a Negro. That book, I'm like, hold on, dang, he talking bad about me. Hold on. And I'm like, okay, these are the things that I need to be getting together because no lies told. Like it hurt, but no lies told. Um, this book, the post traumatic slave syndrome disorder. Just, the things that we don't even know are going on with us. We can't explain it. But then once we read these books, we connect the dots. And then from then on, I feel like now, okay, we can talk about spirit and soul and things like that because it's coming from knowledge. It's coming from the ancestors. Like now I know, I'm sure. So now I can, clean up my connection with God and, my daily practices and discipline. And I just feel like it's all a domino effect, feeding our bodies, healthy foods. So I feel like that is the ideal blend for me. Whatever you choose to do, let's just start with knowledge itself because from then on, you can't go wrong with however you feel you need to blend it, whatever balance you end up having, you can't go wrong once you start from the root. So, and respect. No matter what someone's religion is, I'm always going to respect them. All I ask is respect in return. And I feel like we can learn something from all religions. I feel like I have a piece of every single religion in what I do. And I love that for me because it makes me, very relatable when I come across different people, when I travel. Because when I travel, I want to learn about the history. So I'm always remaining in student mode and, just showing that, sense of respect. And then just understanding about tools of religions and spirituality. For example, the Bible is a tool, it is not the end all be all. And that is where a lot of people fall short because they cut off the infinite, power that they actually have. With spirituality, when it comes to crystals, crystals are a tool. They are not the end all be all. Burning sage and all that, that's the pretty part of it. We're not talking about them long nights when I'm crying because something has been revealed and I'm healing my inner child. That's the real part of your spiritual journey, not, burning sage. That's just a tool. That's something that once you have that connection to spirit, okay, this is what I'm doing to cleanse my energy, to cleanse the air, and the energy in the air. So, just not getting lost in the tools and remaining a student, remaining open, not closing ourselves off like, that's not spiritual. No, ain't no way, because it wasn't in this book and it didn't say that. I feel like we get closed off, or we get to a point and we just feel like, okay, I've reached the top, but there is no top. With spirituality, it's endless. And that's why it was for me, because I'm a Sagittarius. Some people aren't big on zodiac signs, but I'm a fire sign. I was a wild child growing up. I didn't have any answers. I was just here, there, just always adventurous, wanting to know about everything. So now I'm just like, okay, everything is making sense now. This is for me. Religion wasn't for me because it kind of, limited me and made me feel closed off. And that's not what my spirit was, but I just didn't know that. So, I feel like education, is, the root. And from then on, everything else will be good.
Definitely. And I definitely agree, because we do have to have that bridge between the two and have that concept of understanding both, because, there's bits and pieces that we need to take from everything. Like sometimes you might have to take the best and leave the rest, and be able to come to your own conclusion based off of the research that you've done and what you've read, and then make your own decision. Because a lot of times people look to religion at, like you're saying, just the end all be all. I just read this book. I just go to church on Sunday. But you actually have to do the work. It's easy to say something, but you actually have to do the work. Even in the Black conscious community, a lot of people just, say this and they say that, but they're not actually, in the struggle, grassroots, actually doing the work on the ground, and then that separates the people that are actually doing the work, because you see the real results. People that just talk all day, they just have a good image. They've been able to go on YouTube and see a couple videos, but they never actually studied under the tutelage of the scholars. Yeah. And actually done the proper research. They just heard a couple things, and then they'll just say something that's so outlandish. Some of our people, in that sense, when they leave the church and then they go to consciousness, they sometimes might fall victim to believing in somebody just saying this and saying that because it might sound true. If they're the only person that's ever said it, they might be, holding on to the fact that, well, if they said it, nobody else has said it. And if they show a little things that make things look like it might, coincide with one another, people run with that. And that's some of the, people in this community, because even when we were talking about the church, there are still people in the conscious and the spiritual community that will use that. No different than people utilize and hustle within the church. And some people even say, hey, I left the church and I went to the conscious community and I didn't see a difference.
It's just spiritual manipulation at the end of the day. People will sit and say all these big words and, play on people's emotions online, and, then they just going down this tunnel and they're not actually doing any work themselves. They just sitting on people's lives. But when it comes to how you treating people, you still looking down on people. You still got your nose up. So it's like, not really spiritual. It's just something else that people have found where they can feel like they higher up than someone. And I'm making my duty to make sure that people don't feel that way, because it's like, I didn't go through all this work for you to be feeling like I'm looking down on you. Like, I'm the last person. Like, all these things that I've been through, I don't want you feeling that way. But it's so easy for people to feel that way when you get to talk about what you got going on and how you vegan and this and that. And I'm just like, look, y'all, I still slip sometimes. Like, we're human, So it's just like, that's one of the most important things in my business, is making people feel secure and safe. And I always want to be relatable. When I speak, I always say we, because there was a point when I was doing it, or sometimes I might have slipped up and I'm still doing it. So I'm never, free from, people checking me, or, whatever the case may be. I want people to always feel secure and feel like, they're, seen and stuff.
Yes, definitely. That's excellent. Because that's just what we need to do, ushering in that mentality. In addition to revolutionary mentality, we also have to have, the mentality that we can sit with one another and understand the different areas that people find themselves in life. Because sometimes you might have to meet somebody a little bit easier than just coming off, harsh at them.
Yeah.
So it's just understanding, like we always talk about, talking about the balance. That's always going to be the root of what we look at in society. And when things are off whack and one thing is leaning towards the other and there's not balance, that's when the issues and the problems arise in our society. When we don't see a balance, when you see, when the concept of the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, there is no balance within that. Because so then the people who are rich just going to get to an astronomical number to where they don't even know what to do with it. And the poor just get even more, less and less. And there is no balance in that. So even when there's just concepts that people know of like that, it just shows how there needs to be a new age way of thinking in how we look at our society, especially when it comes to politics. That's why just, revitalizing what the Black Panthers laid out, just pushing forth that concept, of being, the politicians in our society, being able to have our own political parties, not having to fight over the lesser of two evils or this party versus that party, having our own party and not having to pledge allegiance to a party that just has a lot of people that look like us in it, but a party that's actually doing something for us, that's tangible, that's going to do something that we can leave a legacy for the future generations and pass that down. And then, so it just puts it in a good perspective that, we're doing the work, we're doing our ancestors' work, right? So it's
and
excellent.
it feels good. It's hard, but it feels good, honestly. It feels good to be a part of the fight.
We look at demographic and we look at the North and we look at the South, and we understand that there's always going to be a difference. And we look at religion, and there's the, Northern kind of religion, and then we have Southern religion, where we know that there's a difference of how it's presented to the people. The people, Black folks in the South are, who they are in the South, and the Black folks in the North are who they are. So knowing your research and from your perspective, is there a difference between Northern religion and Southern religion? And if there is, what is it?
Well, I will say, I'm a Midwest, girl. So I was born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana. But my dad is from Chicago. So I have the Indianapolis and Chicago in me. So I went to school in Nashville, Tennessee State University, like I stated before. And, coming up on, it being 10 years since I started college. So just being, in the South for a total of 10 years, you really start to be like, wow, like, this is where we should be. Like, this feels like home. That's how I feel in Chicago too. And, a little bit in Indianapolis. But when you go to the South and you down there, I mean, when it comes to the cooking, the hospitality, it just feels more rooted. So that's just how I feel like it is in religion. And I've had better experiences in the church down South. They want to hear my ideas. They want, like, especially once I became, spiritual, they're like, we need you in here. We need you bridging this gap. Like, we need you bringing the young people back in here. So I feel like they're more open-minded and welcoming when it comes to like spirituality, or, just being supportive. Everybody's story is not going to look the same. I got less judgment down South in the church. And then I ran into my first AME church, like the African type of churches. When I went in their library and saw them books in there, I was like, hold on, I've never seen no church with no radical books. And, these are things the kids are reading. So that really, and that was a church that I worked out of, being a mental health counselor just recently last year. So that really, like, got me excited, because I had never been in no church and seen no Black stuff like that at all. So, and then I know you can go even further down South, Mississippi and Alabama, in those churches, they speaking the truth. They're like, F white folks. They're saying right there in the pulpit and just be so, real and cut and dry. Those are the churches where I feel like the grassroots, stuff is happening. They're not for all that symbolism stuff and sugarcoating anything. They're telling you how it is. They want their community to come to them. They want everything done, just the black community as far as like economics and, growing our own food. I feel like it's more like that down south than up north. There's more coddling and sugarcoating in my experience. So that is something that, is very beautiful to see being down south. I feel like if you from up north and you never been down south, like to live or just for a long period of time, every black person needs to experience that. And then, of course, going on to Africa and so forth. But that's the first step right there to really like feeling connected. And, if you can, go into a plantation or something, because you never know what spirit and energy you're going to feel when you get there. That could be the energy you need right there to really start what you need to start or get the answers that you have, So I feel like everybody needs to take a trip down south to Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Louisiana, because I have roots all throughout. And those are my ancestors that came up to Chicago. So, it's really interesting learning more. And then you get to connect the dots, because a lot of us don't know, where our family is even from. So going down south is step one. So I feel like, that's the difference. It feels more homey. As far as like the actual word, I can't really speak too much on, because, my last, I guess you could say 2 to 3 years of college was my spiritual journey. And I didn't really, have like, I was just going to church like freshman and sophomore year. I didn't really have a connection. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just felt like that's something you were supposed to do. So I'm still, researching about religion and, through experience and through books and stuff. So, right now, that's just, my point of view on it.
Yeah, and definitely I agree, especially with the church, in the South, because just going to the Ebenezer Church, the King Church in Atlanta, just going to the original church and then going and seeing, all of the things they have dedicated to him, and then just going to the different places in the South and just having also a family connection in the South as well. My father's father being from Alabama, when we went out there, recently this past year, got to check out some of that information and do some digging on some history and research and find out some information. So everybody got to understand, no matter where you are, because I grew up in New York, right? So just growing up in the North, but I have roots in the South, so everybody has to have roots somewhere. We are travel people, especially when it comes to when we were, here, in America during the enslavement process and us having to flee. We might have to kill a white supremacist in the South and flee to the North. And then we got to set up shop in the North, or from the South, go to the West Coast. So, we've all been around, this country, and that's why this is our country. We the foundation. Black people here in America, we the foundation. Not just in addition to building and being the structure of everything that we see, but also the fact that we're going across all these different states and all these different cities and just seeing all of the rich history. There's no place you're going to go and not see rich history. You could go to the whitest of white areas and there's still some black history. Even being here in Seattle, Washington State, right? Just the simple fact that it's called King County after Martin Luther King, right? So, and then just in addition to that, there's a city out here in Washington State called Centralia, which was founded by a black man named George Washington, right? Go figure. And then there's another place that was founded by a black man named George Washington Bush, Tumwater, that's also in Washington State, about an hour from Centralia. So our history is everywhere. No matter where we go, we could go, to, like, we know the South is blackity black. We know that. But then when you even go to the places that are white in the different areas around the United States, you still
I have
see
a fun fact. I have a fun fact about that too, just like what you were saying, like King County. So, in Indiana, they call people Hoosiers. Now you got all these white folks going around calling themselves Hoosiers, and they don't even know Hoosier was a black man.
Yep.
My mom told me that as a kid, and honestly, it was one of the funniest things ever because I was like, really? I was like, wow. And they just be saying stuff and don't even know where it come from. And the whole time you're speaking, you're rising up a black man's name. You're calling yourself one of us. Like if they find out, the pearls that would be clutched. So it's just, little stuff like that we don't even know,
Yep.
We're everywhere. We were
Yep.
everywhere because we had to be. And, we're a people where there's no getting us down. There's no stopping us. So, yeah.
And even just all the sports teams, the football teams, the college team, even though sometimes like the Redskins, the Blackhawks, they want to showcase them as like the Redskin Indian, but we know who are the real natives to America, who they are, what they look like, the same, headgear, the same stuff, but the color is just off.
The symbol of the Saints. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that symbol, that was a symbol of radicalism, and the rebellion, because they put that symbol, it's called like the fleur de lis. They put that symbol on runaway slaves in Louisiana. So you'll see that in a lot of black homes in Louisiana. And that's something I didn't know for a while. I had a white boss one time. She's from Louisiana. I mean, had the symbol tatted on her. Didn't even know that at all. And I was like, wow, there's just so much hidden history, and we are literally everywhere. So, man.
Yep. And that's the thing about it. And they know, we're starting to know. So that's why they have to get certain groups to come over here and be a buffer class to take over, because they know that we can't be used the way we've been being used before.
Yeah, especially not our generation.
It's technology.
Yeah.
It's just putting it at a perspective that everybody can get this information at a quicker pace. Just all of the different documentaries that have come out and just all the information, how fast, how fast in 14 years, all of the documentaries that Tariq has put out in comparison to what we had between the year 2000 and 2010, right? There was, there was pockets of consciousness. There were people that were into, being spiritual and being of a righteous background, but it's just something that got activated once people really get, because Hidden Colors took it to a whole different level. And then it just made you do even more research about the stuff that had already been out there, but because now something got activated in us, and just being at the perfect time with social media, Instagram, with just, people looking at it from a certain quote unquote hip hop perspective, it being on World Star when the first trailer first broke, back in 2010. So there was just a lot of connotations that gravitated people to wanting to see this, documentary and hearing this information. So it definitely, is definitely, a brand new age, and we're keep on pushing that message with everything you're doing, with what I'm doing, with everybody else that are doing what they're doing revolutionary. Like I tell people, whatever you do, revolutionize it. No matter what you do,
it's just a space for everybody. Yep.
I appreciate your time, my sister. But before we go, is there any last gems, anything else that you would like to say that you didn't get to say that you would like to drop on the people? The floor is yours.
So I have to just mention these books. Now, these are not all the books that I've read, but these are some books that have helped me. I'm just going to put them in the camera. This one is The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And then I have So this is the author of the Tree of Life Meditation, but this is his book specifically about, but this is the Tree of Life right here. So he's going to go over the connection and all the concepts again in this book. I got Sisters of the Yam by Bell Hooks. When I tell you this book broke me down and built me back up as a Black woman, all Black women need to read this book. And then of course we have The Goddess Black Woman. Honestly, it's going to tell you about yourself. It's going to tell you how to fix these things, and everything in this book I did not agree with, but when it comes to stepping into your higher self, you just have to take what you need and keep it pushing. Everything, won't be what you need at that moment, and you'll be like, I don't really agree with that. And 10 years later, you might agree with it. So don't get caught up in everything. Just take what you can from these books. And then last but not least, this is my fallen sister, Kahada Muhammad, How to Heal and Hustle. Her father is Nuri Muhammad. So that family, you know, they've been about it, been on it in Indianapolis. So yeah, these are some books that I still, you know, use sometimes just to brush myself back up, get myself back, you know, back together, back focused. But we have to read, you know. Social media is there, and we have these people that have these lives, but y'all, we gotta read. We gotta get in the books. You know, they said before they want to put all the information in the book because niggas don't read. That's how they think of us. And you know, I'm not gonna say it's 100% true. I'm not calling us niggas, but sometimes we want things too easy. We want everything spoon fed to us. We want it just scrolling on our screens. We got to go get them library cards again. We got to start checking out books, buying books, because what if the internet goes dark? Now we're just not going to know anything. We're not going to have any resources. So we got to get back to tangible items. You know, everything is typed up and on a computer, but that doesn't mean that you have to like always become what's around you. You know, keep some things, you know, in the old times. So, I feel like I've said everything. I could talk about this all day and probably start going off on a tangent about something else. But, you know, last but not least, I just want to tell people that we don't have any more time. We didn't have any time before, but we really don't have any more time to play around. We don't have any more time to let other people define our culture. We don't have any more time to be straddling the fence. We don't have any time for sugarcoating. Everything is not going to be said in a good way or a nice way or a pat on the back, but it's all love. Know that it's all love when it comes from a leader, you know, somebody with good energy. They might be blunt and just get on your ass, but hey, sometimes that's what you need to light that spark in you. Especially, you know, listen to the elders. You know, they going to just say it cut and dry. And, you know, we got to sit at the feet of our elders, you know, that we still have around, respect them and honor them and love on them and give them their flowers while they're here. One of them being your father. So, you know, it's people that been out here doing the work that will support you. Focus on that. Don't put no focus and energy on people who not supporting you, people who telling you just get a job and keep your head down. Those not the elders that you want to follow. You know, find your tribe in your village. There's people all over that are doing the work you're doing. Don't feel like it's just you. Don't feel like you're not going to make a difference because you're just one person. Because if Malcolm X and Martin and Asata and Khalid Muhammad, if they felt that way, where would we be now? You know, you got to have the heart and the courage. If it is just you, stand 10 toes down by yourself. And everything that's supposed to come is going, you know, you're going to attract it. You're not going to have to chase anything or anyone. So, you know, just stand firm. It's a lot of craziness going on around here, but we gotta stand firm and we gotta stay focused as best we can and just show more love and grace to everybody. It's the last thing I have to say. Show more love and grace. Everybody is battling something. We all fighting these high gas prices and grocery prices, rent going up. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Like, we all just trying to make it out here and find some type of, you know, happiness and peace. So, you know, like Tabitha Brown says, if you're not having a good day, don't go messing with nobody else's. So, you know, that's the note that I want to end on. Thank you for having me. I have really enjoyed talking about this. This really like made my week because I have had a crazy week with being sick and moving and all that. So, you know, this has really like lifted my spirits. So I appreciate you.
Most definitely, no doubt. And that's just what we got to do. Just link with like-minded people, build this revolution, because, you know, the revolution never stops. It never has stops. We're just continuing it from the what's been laid out for us already. So, you know, I commend you as well. And you know, we're going to continue blazing the trails, you know, for us, for the people that come before us, you know, the people that come after us, everything in between. So, you know, it's just a never-ending concept of always progressing. And we're going to work towards getting to exactly where our ancestors wanted themselves to be, but maybe understood they wouldn't see it in their lifetime, and they hope that they would see it in the next generation. And that's what we're pushing for, family. So this has been another wonderful episode of Power to the Panthers podcast. I thank you, my sister, my aunt, Sankofa. This was another episode that definitely put it in perspective that religion and spirituality, we understand both. We will have a perfect plan for the future. So family, like we usually do at this time, Huey, take us away.
What about your future if you're on the street next week?
I will continue to organize the black community in a political fashion. I will help in the campaign of Eldridge Cleaver for president, my own campaign for 7th Congressional District. And I think this will be a large job because it's going to be done from a grassroots level, from door to door in the community. It will consider the people on 7th Street who stand on the corners, who have lost all faith in this society. And matter of fact, all other will attempt to rehabilitate them, to show them that there is possibly some gains in political action.
Thanks for watching. This episode of Power to the Panthers podcast has been brought to you by Panther Prince Productions.